Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's episode of Feel Good Services videos on mental health and how to develop your self-esteem. And I want to thank you for being part of the Feel Good family. Today, we're going to be talking about anxiety. When we say someone is anxious, someone is hyped up, someone is tensed up, what does that mean? So when we say anxiety, let's talk about some of the symptoms that you see. That person becomes very restless, becomes trembling. They start shaking. They start becoming jittery. So they have the shakes. They cannot sit still. They be sweating excessively. So this person becomes very restless, cannot sit still, start sweating. They also feel constantly on the edge. They always feel like they gotta go. They can't stop. They also have very difficulty concentrating. So they can't concentrate on one thing. They start from here, they move on here, they move on that one. So an example is you talking to someone about soccer, but because of the anxiety that they have going on, they talk so fast that they move from soccer without even talking about the scores of the game and move on to something else. They also have irritability. They easily become irritable. So you're talking about something that shouldn't make them angry, but then you realize that they become angry. Sometimes they have difficulty sleeping. So it could be difficulty falling asleep or difficulty staying asleep. All these are signs and symptoms of someone who is anxious. They also have palpitations, so their hearts will be beating so fast. It seems like you're having a chest pains, like you're having a heart attack or something. When somebody really has anxiety, and depending on where they are, it starts to build up, and then the heart tries to compensate for those symptoms. They also tend to have shortness of breath. So when they breathe in, they have difficulty taking in the oxygen and bringing out the carbon dioxide. So because of the irrational or inappropriate exchange of oxygen, they become short of breath and they start breathing so fast to compensate for the lack of oxygen in the system. Some people too have diarrhea when they have anxiety, or they have stomach ache. So you hear people, whenever they hear something that is panicking, they hear something that is very disheartening to the heart, then they tend to use the bathroom immediately. These are all signs and symptoms of someone who has anxiety. So the analogy I'll give is, let's say you're working constantly on this rate, right? And then for any reason, we talked about stress earlier. So a stressor comes in and then it moves you to this level. So now you're very anxious. So on the normal, you're working at a pace of, let's say, between 4 to 5 or 3 to 5 on a scale of 1 to 10. When you have anxiety, you're operating between 8 and 10. And that is where you stay. For that reason, there has to be certain things put in place to bring you down to the norm. Let's talk about some of anxieties, some type of anxieties. So one is panic attack. So panic attack is something that comes on and then it makes you fear for something immediately. So that one doesn't really work its way up. And it's not something that is constantly there. You get panicky. You get fearful at once. I know of someone that was in the bathroom taking a shower. And then he had a panic attack for no reason. And then he left the bathroom, started running. The wife was in the way. He pushed the wife and the wife fell. He didn't have any sense to stop and then check on the wife. He kept running because of whatever fear he had at the point in time. So that is panic attack. We also have agoraphobia, the fear that you cannot escape from wherever you are. So this is not a fear of just the space. It's like, I'm going to church today, but then I have the fear that I will not be able to escape from the church. So that fear is what we call agoraphobia. And we have social anxiety, the fear to be in social settings, the fear to be in public places. We also have generalized anxiety disorder. So these people are constantly operating between 7 and 10. So generally, on a norm, on a usual day, that is how much they're operating. For those people, they definitely have to be on in therapy or on medication to be able to bring their anxiety down. The other specific phobias are claustrophobia, so the fear of being in an enclosed space. We have animal phobias. Some are afraid of dogs, some are afraid of cats, and so many other animals. And then we have situational phobias. So some situations could be flying, getting on an aeroplane. For some people, they have to take Xanax before, an hour before they board the plane. So they have a fear of heights. We have those people also. I know someone personally that when we were having our clinicals at St. Elizabeth, and I'm talking about from Cincinnati to Kentucky, you have to cross a bridge to be able to get to the other side of the state. This lady had the fear of getting on the bridge so much that she had to park her car before the bridge, join someone, lay in the passenger seat on the back to be able to cross the bridge to get to Kentucky. So these are real fears that people have. Some also could be through a tunnel, and so many others. And then we have the natural environment fears, the fear of water, the fear of storm. And then some too are afraid of needles. When I had my OB clinicals at a hospital here in Cincinnati, Ohio, there was a student that went to the room where the lady was going to have a baby. And then we had to give the baby and the mother an epidural. When we had the needle in the mother, that fellow student collapsed. I've also seen where the fathers also collapse during the epidural session, and then they end out in the ER while the mother will be having the baby. So by the time they come back, the mother already have the baby. These are all types of phobias or fears or things or various kinds of anxiety that we have, or things that makes us have anxiety. Now, let's talk about some treatment. So we have the structured family system. Always, any psychosocial support that you have is always very good for any mental health condition, and in this case, for anxiety. Because there are certain stresses that will cause you the anxiety, but because you have that support system in place, then you do not have the stresses to have the anxiety. So it could be that I need some financial assistance because I have a support system to help me with my finances. It doesn't cause me anxiety. It could be childcare. I know people that lose their job because they cannot find reliable babysitters. So if I have a reliable babysitter, then I don't have to worry about that to have an anxiety over it. Our faith can also help us because you also believe in someone. You also believe in something. Therefore, you're not anxious about certain things that happens in your life. Recreational, being engaged in sporting activities, being engaged in recreational activities, outdoor activities, definitely helps us so that we do not spend so much time thinking and dwelling on some of the stresses that we have. I always say this: you are what you eat, therefore we should be mindful of our food. We also have to face our fears. What I mean is, whatever you're very anxious about, whatever gives you the anxiety, you have to face it. So if your anxiety is about public speaking, you have to face it to be able to get over it. The only caution is, please, let's face it with slower pace. Let's not rush into it. So if I have a fear of public speaking, please do not get me in front of a huge crowd. Let's start with a manageable number. If it's 5, then we move on to 10, and then I keep learning. If you get me in front of a huge crowd, then forget it. It's not going to happen, and I'll never try it again. And then one important thing is always identify what makes you anxious. If you know the problem, then you can find a solution. Other therapies that are out there are also art therapy. Someone might think that just drawing is not enough. But I tell you what it does on your mind, what it does for your body, always makes you feel calm and relaxed and concentrating on the item that you're doing. Therefore, it doesn't get you to be too worried about everything else. Music is very important also in managing anxiety. There is a study that is out there that talks about the type of music that you listen and how fast you drive in a car. So if you listen to a very high tempo, high beat music, you tend to drive faster in the car. So if you have anxiety and then you tend to listen to a slow beat music that is encouraging, music that is more fulfilling, then it helps you to manage your anxiety. But then if you're listening to a high tempo, high beat music, and then you're already anxious, then you're also going to be hyped up. So music is definitely very good. Another thing is deep breathing exercise. Once you do that, it makes you to concentrate on the breathing and not the problem. So when someone is really anxious and all hyped up and they can't breathe and breathing so fast, what we do is you breathe through your nose, you blow through your mouth. So we say smell the candles and smell the roses and blow the candles, right? So you taking deep, long breath in and then you blow it out through your mouth. There are so many things that goes on in the system that helps to regulate the heartbeat and your body. But then let's always remember that. Smell in the roses and then blow the candles. Some other things that I want us to pay attention to is some of the celebrities, some people that we know, your next door neighbor, the one that you look up to, may also have anxiety disorder.